Have you ever let someone dig their own grave and just watched? My boss, Angela, thought she was untouchable when she forced me to be her scapegoat. For 2 years, I documented everything while watching her build her house of cards. I was a financial analyst at a mid-sized tech company when Angela became our new department head. Within her first week, she called me into her office and said she needed a reliable partner. What she really meant was she needed someone to blame. Every time she made a costly mistake, I'd get an email asking me to review and sign off on decisions she'd already made. When investments tanked, she'd forward our earlier exchanges to upper management, highlighting my signature. I lost count of how many times she threw me under the bus in meetings, saying things like, "Well, Noah assured me these numbers were solid." But what Angela didn't know was that I had a system. Every time she'd email me to review her mistakes, I'd save our entire exchange, including metadata showing when she actually made the decision. I kept a detailed log of every meeting where she blamed me, noting who was present and what was said. I even recorded our one-on-one conversations on my phone, which was legal in our state. The real gold came when she started doctoring financial reports. She'd inflate revenue projections to get her bonuses, then scrambled to hide the gaps. Every time she asked me to help adjust the numbers, I saved copies of both versions. For 2 years, I played the perfect scapegoat. I'd apologize for my mistakes in meetings, accept responsibility for her failed projects, and thank her for her mentorship in helping me improve. The more I absorbed her blame, the bolder she became. She even started bad-mouthing me to other department heads, calling me incompetent and a liability. But her favorite move was taking credit for my successful projects. She'd wait until I was out sick or on vacation, then present my work as her own. The breaking point came when she tried to deny my promotion. HR had already approved it, but she claimed my poor performance made me unqualified. She even submitted a file of documented mistakes, all her own decisions she'd blamed on me. That's when I made my move. I scheduled a meeting with our CEO and brought everything. Emails showing she made decisions before asking me to review. Meeting recordings of her admitting to changing numbers, documentation proving the projects she claimed were hers were actually mine. The real cherry on top. She'd been backdating documents to cover her tracks, but didn't realize our system logged every modification. I had proof showing she'd altered dates on dozens of files. The CEO's face went from skeptical to shocked as I laid out 2 years of evidence. When he called Angela in, she walked in with her usual confident smirk. She probably thought this was another chance to throw me under the bus. Instead, he started asking very specific questions about certain projects and decisions. Angela, thinking I was about to take another fall, gleefully threw me under the bus again. As I've documented repeatedly, Noah's work has been consistently subpar. The CEO cut her off and played one of my recordings, her explicitly telling me to alter numbers for quarterly reports. Her face went white. For the next hour, he confronted her with document after document, recording after recording. She tried everything, claiming I'd manipulated the evidence, saying I was trying to sabotage her, even crying about how I'd betrayed her trust. But there's no arguing with metadata and timestamps. The CEO called security to escort her out. As she left, she screamed that I'd planned this from the beginning. She wasn't entirely wrong. I'd spent 2 years watching her dig her grave while meticulously documenting every shovelful. The company pressed charges for financial fraud. Angela lost her professional licenses. Last I heard, she was working retail management, still apparently blaming her employees for everything. But here's what I didn't expect. 2 days after Angela got fired, her assistant Riley came to me with tears in her eyes. She handed me a USB drive. "There's more," she whispered. She made me keep a second set of books. I was too scared to say anything. That USB drive contained spreadsheets showing Angela had been running a side consulting business using our company's resources. She'd been billing clients, pretending to be an independent contractor while using our systems, our client database, and even our conference rooms after hours. When I showed this to the CEO, his already pale face turned ashen. Jesus Christ, this is worse than I thought. The legal department jumped on it immediately. What we thought was simple fraud turned into a major theft investigation involving thousands of dollars in stolen resources. The next week was chaos. 3 more employees came forward with similar stories. Angela had built a whole web of manipulation. Throughout the company, she'd been blackmailing people for years, including our IT guy, Kevin, who she'd caught looking at inappropriate material on his work computer. In exchange for staying quiet, he'd been giving her access to everyone's emails. That's how she always seemed to know things before they happened. She didn't have some magical business intuition. She was literally reading our personal communications. Legal caught up with her 2 weeks later. She tried claiming she was framed, that I'd masterminded some elaborate conspiracy. But when they presented the second set of books and Kevin's confession, even her expensive lawyer told her to take the plea deal. What she didn't expect was that I wasn't done. See, during those 2 years, I'd made real friends at the company, people she'd hurt even worse than me. Jessica from accounting, who Angela had convinced everyone was skimming money. Michael from sales, who lost 3 major accounts because Angela sabotaged him to make her numbers look better. We all had our own folders of evidence. And when the civil suit started rolling in, Angela's confident facade finally cracked. The company sued her for $800,000 in damages. Her consulting clients found out they'd been working with stolen resources and sued her for fraud. 7 former employees, including me, filed personal lawsuits for emotional distress and lost opportunities. The best part, her fancy McMansion, the one she'd bought with stolen money and bonuses earned by screwing us over, went up for public auction. I drove by on sale day. Angela was there looking like a shadow of herself, watching strangers pick through her designer furniture and art collection. But the universe had one more surprise for us. Remember Riley, the assistant who gave me the USB drive? She got offered Angela's old job and her first decision as new department head. She created a whistleblower policy and installed recording equipment in all offices. The company stock dropped 15% when the news broke about Angela's fraud. Shareholders threatened to sue. In desperation, the board brought in a new CEO. Her name was Patricia Chen, and she'd built her career exposing corporate fraud. Her first day, she called an all-hands meeting. "This company has a culture problem," she said bluntly, "and we're going to fix it starting today." She launched an independent investigation into how Angela's behavior went unnoticed for so long. Turns out the old CEO, Gerald, had known about some improprieties, but looked the other way because Angela's department brought in big numbers. Gerald retired quietly a month later, keeping his pension but losing his consulting contract. The ID board restructured the entire company, bringing in external auditors and implementing strict oversight policies. As for me, I got my promotion, plus a settlement that came with an NDA. But money wasn't the real victory. The real win was watching a corrupt system expose itself and begin to heal. 6 months later, I was grabbed coffee in the break room when a group of new hires walked by. One was telling the others, "This company has zero tolerance for that kind of stuff now. They literally fire people for breathing wrong about ethics." I smiled to myself. Good. Let them think twice before even attempting what Angela did. But the story doesn't end there, because karma has a way of coming full circle. Last month, I got a LinkedIn message from Angela herself. She wanted to meet for coffee. Said she wanted to apologize in person and clear the air. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something made me accept. We met at a Starbucks on the complete opposite side of town from our old office. She looked older, grayer. Her designer clothes had been replaced with off-the-rack business casual. She actually apologized. Not the fake, manipulative apology I expected. Real tears. Genuine remorse. "I lost everything," she said. "My house, my reputation, my family. My kids barely speak to me. My husband divorced me. I'm in therapy 3 times a week trying to understand why I became that person." Then she hit me with what she really wanted. She was working on a book about corporate misconduct and wanted me to contribute. "Your story is powerful." She said it could help prevent this from happening to others. I stared at her trying to process this request. The audacity was almost impressive. She'd spent years making my life hell, and now she wanted to profit from my experience. "I'll think about it," I told her. Not a yes, not a no, just enough to keep her hoping, because that's what she did to me for years. Kept me in this perpetual state of uncertainty, never knowing when the next blow would come. When I got home that night, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not for her book, for myself. For everyone who's ever been the scapegoat, the fall guy, the one blamed for someone else's mistakes. I wrote about the nights I couldn't sleep, wondering if I'd actually made those errors she accused me of. The times I questioned my own competence, my own memory, the humiliation of being called out in meetings for things I didn't do, the frustration of watching her take credit for my work. But I also wrote about resilience, about the quiet power of documentation, about how justice might be slow, but it's thorough when it finally arrives. 2 weeks after that coffee meeting, Angela's book proposal got leaked. Some ambitious writer had pitched The Reformed Scapegoat, a CEO's journey from fraud to redemption. Publishers laughed it out of their offices. Turns out nobody wants to buy a book from someone who lost their professional licenses for fraud. The same day, I got an email from a business school in Boston. They wanted me to speak to their ethics class about corporate whistleblowing. They'd found my name in a case study about Angela's downfall and were impressed by how I'd handled the situation. Standing in front of those students sharing my story, I realized something profound. Angela's destruction had become my construction. Her fall had built my platform. The 2 years I spent documenting her crimes had given me a voice that now reached hundreds of future business leaders. But life had one more twist in store. 3 months after that business school talk, I walked into my favorite lunch spot downtown. The hostess looked flustered. "I'm so sorry, but there's going to be a wait. The assistant manager called in sick, and we're short-staffed." I glanced at my phone. I had an hour before my next meeting. "No problem. I'll wait." That's when I saw her. Angela wearing a name tag that read, "Angela, assistant manager, dealing with an angry customer at the counter." Her face was red, sweat beading on her forehead as the customer yelled about a wrong order. Our eyes met briefly. No recognition, no acknowledgement, just two strangers in a busy restaurant. I watched her for a minute, the same woman who used to command boardrooms now apologizing profusely over French fries versus onion rings. In that moment, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not pity, but closure. She was just another person now, dealing with the same daily frustrations as everyone else. The power dynamic that had defined our relationship for so long no longer existed. When I finally got seated, a different manager, a young guy named Carlos, took my order. "Sorry about the delay," he said. "It's only my 3rd week as manager. Still learning the ropes. No worries," I told him. Everyone starts somewhere. As he walked away, I thought about beginnings and endings, about how we're all just trying to navigate our own stories. The food came eventually. As I ate, I overheard Angela training a new employee at the register. She was actually being nice, patient, explaining things clearly without the condescending tone she used to use with me. Maybe rock bottom had changed her. Maybe not. Either way, it wasn't my story to write anymore. I'd spent 2 years carefully collecting pages for a book that was now firmly closed. When I left that restaurant, I never went back. Not out of spite, but out of choice. I'd rather spend my lunch hours somewhere that served fresh starts, not warmed-over endings. 6 months later, I got my answer about whether Angela had truly changed. My former colleague, Jessica, called me excited. "You won't believe this, but I just got a Facebook message from Angela's new boss at the restaurant." My heart sank. Please tell me she didn't manipulate someone else. No, the opposite. He wanted to thank us for whatever we did to fix her. Said she's the most honest, hard-working employee he's ever had. Apparently, she's been teaching their staff about financial management best practices. Jessica laughed. I told him we didn't fix her. We just held up a mirror. That night, I deleted the folder on my computer labeled Angela Evidence. Every email, every recording, every document. I dragged it all to the trash and emptied it. The digital weight of 2 years gone in seconds. Some stories need to be preserved. Others need to be buried so new chapters can begin. Angela's manipulation had taught me the power of documentation, but it had also taught me the power of letting go. A year later, I was promoted again, this time to division head. My first decision, I abolished the blame culture that had festered under our old management. Instead, I implemented a learn and grow policy. Mistakes became teaching moments, not witch hunts. But my real legacy wasn't policy changes or titles. It was the culture shift I'd inadvertently started. People began documenting to protect, not to prosecute. We created accountability through transparency, not fear. And sometimes late at night, I still think about those 2 years, about the meticulousness required to build a bulletproof case, about the patience needed to watch someone dig their own grave without rushing them, about the quiet triumph of watching truth prevail. But mostly, I think about that young analyst I used to be, the one who learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming so successful in your own right that your oppressor becomes just another face in the crowd, forgotten among the masses while you continue to rise. They say karma's a counterfeit. But in my experience, karma is more like a really thorough accountant. She keeps perfect records. She misses nothing. And when she finally balances the books, justice is always precise to the penny.